hello, and welcome back to Ascension TV Online. I'm Caroline Mary, I'm your host, and today I'm so grateful to have Diana Savil here with me today. I'm just so happy. I was so excited when you said yes, you were going to join me. So, Diana is a very experienced teacher. She's an Usui Reiki master, she's a tarot reader, and also a teacher of tarot as well. And she is the host of a group called the Illumination Group. Is that right? It is, isn't it? Because the same as the album that I made a few years ago. And this is bringing through the beautiful Ascended Master Saint Germain, carrying that violet flame energy. And look at you, you're resplendent in the violet colours there today, Diana. And these group, honestly, I'm getting warm energies coming through just as I'm thinking of Saint Germain and that group. I have honestly, you've changed my life with that group. I've sat in the meditation and been like, download, and started taking action. So powerful energies that you hold and you bring through. So, Diana, welcome. It's so lovely to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Caroline. I mean, thank you for inviting me to do this, but thank you so much for your lovely words just now about the group. It's wonderful to hear what a change it has made for you, how it has enabled things. And I know that you are not alone in that. And I am so blown away sometimes by what people kindly feed back to me they have experienced and received within the group. And it's not always necessarily linked with anything specific that Saint Germain has been talking about.
Yeah.
Not surprising, perhaps, because we're simply held in that glorious energy for almost an hour. So this is a powerful time. This is some incredible things can take place, and yes, of course, primarily Saint Germain's energy, but I also know that among the wonderful people who attend the group, there are some extremely powerful beings. I'm talking on the physical level. I'm aware we
Yes. Yeah. I can think of a
have
few as
many,
well that
many
I know of. Yeah.
non-physical beings present too.
Yeah.
So when you think that all that energy is combined together in a way, then it's not surprising what can unfold for people. But I mean, also, again, I hear from people who've attended that the words also that come through have been very powerful, and as is so often the case, absolutely what they needed to
Yeah.
hear.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but in addition to that, as I say, the healing, physical healing included, that has taken place within people is glorious. And in addition, as we've already said, we have Saint Germain, we have the energy of Saint Germain for almost an hour. We have some very powerful physical presences there and powerful non-physical as well. But the group, as you know, is named the Illumination Group, and this was the name that Saint Germain gave us at the beginning of the group when we began last year, last January. And he named it so because he was telling us, reminding us, and he refers to it frequently, that when even two people, so this is happening for you and I in this moment, Caroline,
Oh,
and also will of course be taking place for as people listen to this, but it needs only two people, but any larger group, of course, the same happens. But if two people come together, not necessarily for a spiritual purpose, which of course ours is today, then a vessel of light is created.
yeah.
And the light from that connection between those two or more people radiates out, but it continues, the vessel of light remains in being even after those present have separated, and the light from that vessel continues to radiate. And it was because of that, or that was the description or the explanation he gave to us in that first meeting that we had, that first channeling evening, and he then named us, the Illumination Group. So, we were blessed to be given the name, as it were, by the Ascended Master himself. So in addition to his energy for an hour and all the powerful beings that are present, all those present within that group are also being held in a co-created, and it happens um, automatically is perhaps the wrong word to use for such a magical process, but we don't go through any conscious process to create the group when we come together. It just comes
Yeah.
into being. So we are also, all of us at that time, sitting within a glorious vessel of light. So it makes it sound sort of, how do people manage without experiencing this? And I like all these things. It's not for everyone, but I do
Sure.
know that the many people who join us, and of course it's not the same people every time. Some are not able to, and so on. But um, I believe from memory that we've rarely had less than 20 or so, which I am delighted about. I mean, it's just so wonderful to feel that so many people are willing and able to come together in that way, and also uh, so wonderful that being together in that manner, in that space, with that intention of connecting and experiencing the higher energy, we are able to accomplish certain things. Because, as you know, because bless you, you've been a regular attendee to the groups. It's a joy to have you there. Um, Sometimes he is, as it were, just speaking, just guiding, advising, but sometimes, on more than one occasion, we have been invited to consciously connect with a specific intention of directing the light towards some contribution to the continuing ascension process that humanity and beyond are moving through. So it's lovely to feel that there are a number of beings, physical beings, who are able to join together and enable such change. Um, I feel it's perhaps worth mentioning here on the basis that we are, going to be, we are at the moment, but will be recorded and out there for people to connect with when they choose, that this does not happen with the Illumination Group, and several people have asked about it being recorded, and I have thought about it myself, but so far, every time I have inquired to
Mm,
the main member of the group, without whom it would really be happening, um, the information is always no, because it is just for the now. It is just for the moment of that experience, and unless and until that answer changes, we won't be recording.
yeah,
Which in a way is a shame, but I trust completely,
sure.
totally the higher sort of perspective on that. So, but I
Yeah.
just thought it worth mentioning in case people were thinking it was something they could
Oh, they could get the
up on and
recording.
connect
Sure.
to
Sure.
after the event. More than delighted that they join with us. It's the first Thursday of every month, and the information is all on my website on the Illumination Group page. So
And I
um,
will put a specific link to that as well
thank you.
as your website, because I think
Yes.
it's good to separate the things that you do, you know what I mean, and give that clarity. And I honestly, if you're watching, if you and you really haven't experienced the violet flame, I so highly recommend it, and the energy of Saint Germain. And I would, you know what? Well, I'm going to ask you now how you got into this, but do you know what was coming to mind when you were talking about it is how you know how we something happens, you go, gosh, that's how far my journey's come round. Because years ago I came across the Summit Lighthouse, big American organization, loads of teachings, and it was all based on Saint Germain and this couple that were channeling all his wisdom. And I was reading these dictations from like the 50s and 60s and 70s, and it would be this group and receiving this channel from Sanj Man, and I was like, Oh, it's so amazing. And I always have resonated to the Ascended Masters, something in me like, oh, they're amazing people and I want to know more. And then here I am, like actually sitting in a group like that. So if you're interested, like, oh, I so highly recommend it because you're getting like an activation from the energies, but the wisdom that comes through is simple but so potent. And as you said, exactly what's needed. But let's rewind, Diana. How did you come across to Saint Germain and be doing this work? Like, what was your awakening and coming into doing this spiritual work, Diana?
Well, I mean, that in a way, there's two questions there, Caroline, because as you probably know, have been doing a significant amount of spiritual work for a long time before I engaged with Saint Germain. But if I won't take you through the whole journey of that, but it is worth going back towards the beginning of my spiritual journey because that will then make sense when we bring in himself. Not literally. This is, this is just human to human today. We're not having any more higher input than we're already blessed to be receiving. When I started this lifetime on my conscious spiritual journey, it was back in the early 90s, and I was blessed to go to what I now realize was quite an amazing development group. I mean, I knew very little at the time, and this was the first group I'd gone to. And so, I thought the sort of things we were doing were normal for spiritual development groups. I've since realized that actually it was literally on quite a different level because the people who were present in it. But fairly early on within that, I had it was a spontaneous experience, which I will share with you briefly because you might be interested.
Absolutely.
And this sounds really mundane, but a friend was on holiday and had the responsible job of looking after his goldfish while he was away. So but the midpoint of his fortnight's holiday, I had to go and feed this one goldfish. And I'd walked there. We didn't live too far away from each other. It was middle of summer and warm. So having fed the goldfish, which, took all of about 2 seconds, I then just sat for a minute before walking back through the heat. And as I was sitting there, I became aware of a sensation, almost like something coming into the center of my chest. And I did wonder what it was, but it felt okay. So I thought, okay, we'll just allow this. And shortly after that, I became aware that this wasn't forced. I relaxed and allowed this to happen, but that my hands were moving into a position like this. And again, I thought this is a little strange, but it feels okay. So, we'll just kind of go with it.
Amazing.
And I had my eyes closed because I was, experiencing this experience. And I was sitting there and I knew exactly where my hands were. I could feel them. I could feel I was so intensely aware of feeling where they were. And I wanted to sort of look at what was going on with them because the feeling in them was so powerful. So I opened my eyes and I knew without a shadow of a doubt that my hands were here. I mean, I could feel them. I knew that's where they were. So when I opened my eyes and found that my hands were a good 6 inches, it's like, but
Oh.
they're here. This, I know they aren't, but they're not. So then everything sort of settled down and sort of whatever it was disappeared. And it's like, oh, don't know what that was. I must ask when I next go to the group.
Yeah.
And as I was walking back from my goldfish duties, I remember there was a slight sense, and yet enough for me to be aware. I sort of felt taller than I really was, which again I thought was sort of a little strange, but okay. And that fairly soon dissipated. So the next group that we had, I think they were weekly. At appropriate moment, asked the amazing lady that was running it and described this and said what was happening. Oh, she said, you were channeling Pa. So I said, what's channeling?
Right.
Who's Pa? And it was Pa-Hotep, an ancient Egyptian, who I regularly channeled from then on. Not only for one particular friend, as it happened, so certainly not, publicly or for a group or, and whenever Pa was around, whenever he was coming through, my hands would always go into this position, and we called it Pa's position. And what amazed me, I mean, I won't say I can understand it now because it does defy logic, but it wouldn't seem so strange now. But I could sit like that for an hour or so. But I know absolutely if I tried to sit like that with just me without parts, then a few minutes at the most, and I'd be stiff and achy afterwards. And there was nothing, quite happily sitting there for, as I say, quite some time. So channeling as a process had literally just come. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know it could be done.
Yeah.
That's actually been the case for many of the things I've found myself doing. They've just
Sure.
sort of arrived.
Yeah.
Um, so this was way back over 30 years ago now, and I channeled Pa for a few years. And then other things came along on the spiritual journey, and that sort of fell by the wayside a bit, until I received my attunement to Reiki level 2. And shortly after that, a client came. Um, we were doing a particular kind of past life work, which involved the client basically going into meditation and visualizing something. And this particular client was just getting nothing. Um, and I was aware I was going sort of deeper and deeper into the energy to try and take her deeper, to try and get her to see something, receive something. And I also, as that was happening, realized that I was actually moving into a space of starting to connect with another energy and to bring that energy through, which is what eventually happened. And when they came through, I don't know to this day who it was, but obviously a being of light. When they eventually came through, the first thing they said to this client was, if you wanted to know something, why did you just not ask? As in
Okay.
you don't need to go through this process
Rigmarole kind of thing. Yeah.
um, so for a little while, sort of more channeling was happening then. And then again, it sort of fell away as other things came in. But then came a time when I was doing it was body work, but we were working with wonderful high frequency energies, and it was all focused on connecting to the high level of ki, transformative ki. So my sensitivity to energy on all levels increased through the training for that work. And then within that, as I worked with clients, not quite anything could happen, but healing energy would flow spontaneously, and also guidance would come through. And I can't say it's a fine line of when you actually what you might call channeling and when is it just but I wasn't aware of doing any what I would call like full channeling at that time. And then various beings, mainly ascended masters, a few cosmic beings as well, would come through for client sessions. We're nearly up to Saint Germain, don't panic, we will get there.
Good.
So I'd
Nothing
been
yet.
I'd kind of reconnected with the channeling process and significant sensitivity to subtle energies. Um, and had been aware for a while when I was working with clients, or whatever I was doing, of a being sort of lurking in the corner of the room. Again, it felt quite comfortable, and I assumed it was a being of light. And I thought, well, it will come forward when it's appropriate. And it was there for certainly a few weeks, if not 2 or 3 months. Um, and then, because you asked, how did I connect with Saint Germain? This is so mundane, um, but it was one morning in January 2010. I was making the bed. We had a duvet. It doesn't take long to make a bed with a duvet. And in the time that I made the bed, this knowing just arrived. that I would be channeling Saint Germain in a weekly group. That's
Wow.
like, okay, never connected with him before, never channeled him before, never worked with him, don't know much about him.
Yeah.
But if this is what's happening, this is what's happening.
Right.
And then, of course, I realized that the presence that had been lurking in the background was Saint Germain. So it's like, okay, well, let's see, how this goes. So I emailed. I think I sort of selected people who might be willing to explore this with me. I emailed a small number of people, willing people I knew. And there were 17 of us. No, I beg your pardon, it was 15 on that occasion. 15 of us squeezed into what was a very tiny flat I was living in at the time. And I kept thinking, maybe I ought to have a trial run. Maybe I ought to kind of connect before but for whatever reason I hadn't. So we had the 15 people sitting there, and I kind of sat myself in the chair and off we went.
Oh, I love
That
that.
obviously wasn't the Illumination Group, as I say that, but this was what we later called ourselves the Ascension Group, because this I say this was 2010, and that group ran in that form um, to early 2013. And at the time, if you cast your mind back to that, we were all so focused on the winter solstice in 2012.
Yeah,
That was
I
so
really
that was
remember
sort
that.
of
Yeah.
what we were working towards. And again, similar to the Illumination Group, powerful energy, but we did a lot of focused processes, shall we say, to assist humanity as we approached December 2012. And then the group changed format slightly because we kind of passed December 2012, but still uh, that sort of went its own way, if you like. But by then I was also offering, one-to-one channelings with Saint Germain, and then, of course, 2013, Edwin Courtney, bless him, or Saint Germain through Edwin Courtney, gave us the workshop with the Violet Flame Chakra, which
Right.
I attended, the first one, the main one with 84 of us there, acquired all that teaching. And
Amazing.
you may know from your own connection with that, and I have a feeling you passed that on yourself, but we were invited at the time to pick pieces of paper as we entered, and later it turned out I'm giving away trade secrets here for anyone who hasn't yet done the awakening. It turned out to be the names of the beings that we work with. I wasn't particularly surprised to find that my piece of paper said Saint Germain, because I'd been working with him for a while. But then when Edwin shared within the workshop, I feel this was more true at the time than it is now, that depending on which name someone had picked, they were likely to be working with a particular aspect of the tools we acquire in the Violet Flame Chakra Awakening. Then, of course, Edwin said, those who have picked Saint Germain are likely to be teaching this and spreading it. So
Okay.
it's like, okay, probably not going to have much choice in
Gotcha.
this. And which, as you know, I have been doing ever since, as have many other people. I will say, I'm by no means the only person offering this, but yeah, Saint Germain was very much, behind me for that. And I can't say he was much involved in this, but I and my wonderful website lady set up the Violet Flame Chakra website. I was prompted to do that.
Yeah.
And as you also know, very much with Saint Germain's help and his guidance, to write the book Awakening the Flame, which is all about the early days of the Violet Flame Chakra. So, he absolutely, I'm delighted, honoured, and overjoyed to be doing all this.
Yeah.
But, he very clearly has been, shall we say,
I'm
yeah,
really
yes,
getting that picture
absolutely,
like this.
you will do this, you will do, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love it.
And that's, the teaching of that is still continuing, and I trust will continue, because I love teaching it, and I think the tools it offers are are amazing. But as I know you know, we have had since then further glorious tools given to us working with the energy of the violet flame. We had the fearless tools that again Edwin Courtney brought through 18 months or so ago, and most recently, still kind of hot off the press and just starting to be spread, the amazing tools of the Violet Flame Apothecary, where we have a new collection of really so simple and straightforward to use, but nevertheless powerful tools working with the energy of the violet flame. And again, as I know you know, I'm going to be passing this workshop on. Bless him, Edwin, everything that Edwin does, all his workshops, he shares his notes, and those who attend are able to pass those teachings on. This is what I will be doing imminently, because that's already in place. But I also know, again, partly because of Saint Germain's presence, that is something I will again go on teaching as we go forward. So yes, very, very long answer to your
Oh
question,
no, it's
Caroline.
absolutely amazing. And Diana, and it to me it's so inspiring to hear because, when we're on our own in our little journey, if we don't have a group, like I've never attended, no, I know I did once for a while, but I've walked a very solo path, doing a lot of karma work. And you think, oh, and am I the only one? And when you hear the other people, you think, oh, thank goodness for that. One of my memories for being behind, I was running in Portugal. I was talking about it with Kieran, and it was like, oh, it's a dragon. I'm like, oh, hi, and I've had like Mahatma, you know, turn up, and then oh, I'm talking to different beings at different times, and because of my human fears and lack of confidence at times, I'm like, okay, yeah, fine, you can go away again. So, you're normalizing it. And that's the point of this, to hear that actually, it's not like we're special. We just potentially have turned towards spirit, and it's the time for us to do that work, or I want to say there's a space, because I see a lot of people who do a lot of amazing work, that be their mothers or doing whatever it is, their very physical work, and it's all got its part to play, hasn't it? But sometimes some of us, it's like this knowing, it's like there's just a space, and then it can drop in. And if we're very busy, then because if you're watching this and you're thinking, well, why doesn't it happen to me, is there space, is there time, is there that openness to receive? Because that's when I've received things, is because I almost turned, had to say goodbye to my past, and I committed, I shaved my dreadlocks off, and I was like, right, I'm here, you got me. And my God, it is like everything has been stripped off, and the trainings and meeting different people and spiritual people. So you have to, there is a commitment that we're making, isn't it? We're turning up to source, to God, to be of service. And so yeah, what I'm saying is it's absolutely lovely to hear, Diana, absolutely amazing. And I want to just ask, Diana, do you feel to just share simply about what the violet flame itself is, for those who don't know, and then
Yes.
what the different elements are that you've spoken about, and when people can join you for the trainings, because you've got some coming up, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. Yes, bless you. Yes, as with all these things, when someone is very familiar with something, you tend to forget that it could be new to people. So
Yeah.
thank you for prompting me on that, Caroline. So yes, if we start sort of at the beginning, as it were, which is not such a long thread as the one I've just shared, but the violet flame itself, as an energy, is this amazing, powerful tool that anyone can call on, that no training is required, no teaching, it's available to everyone. And the violet flame is able to transmute, transform any negative frequencies into the frequency of light. And there are many ways of clearing negative energy. And I'm sure that those watching this will have many tools of their own already of clearing negative energy. But as far as I'm aware, the violet flame is the only one that is able to transform that energy into light. So it doesn't just remove it, blow it away to be taken care of by some higher beings. It actually transforms it into light. And the violet flame has been around, as it were, used for centuries. It certainly goes back to Atlantean times. I have heard some say that it goes back beyond then. That may well be true. I don't know. I have no knowledge, either conscious or intuitive, as to where it began. But it's certainly been around since Atlantean times, because in the book Awakening the Flame, Saint Germain, some of the chapters are directly channeled. He talks about his initial, obviously a different incarnation then, but his initial connection with the flame back in Atlantis. And it's been used, as I say, over the centuries. Excuse me. Is still accessible to anyone and everyone now. All anyone needs to do if they want to use it is simply to call on it. If you wish to use slightly special words, it's, I now invoke the violet flame of transmutation. And then visualize or imagine that violet fire burning through whatever it is you want to transmute the negative energy in or around. So this can be a person, this can be a location, this can be an object, this can be a situation. You can simply call in the energy of the violet flame to transmute anything negative, and it will do so, as with all these spiritual tools. If you believe it will do so, it will. If you doubt it, it might be questionable. But if you believe that by calling on it and intending that it transmutes any negative energy, then that will happen. Moving on then to the violet flame chakra, which is the workshop, the teaching that Edwin brought through, Saint Germain gave it to us in November 2013. The violet flame chakra is at the time was a new chakra in our energy field, totally different from what we might call the normal chakras, the ones many people are familiar with. It's much more like a portal, shall we say? I mean, to quote the words, a doorway or window or portal, literally through which the power of the violet flame might be accessed and called upon. And with the awakening of the violet flame chakra, which is what that workshop, what that teaching enables, we become able to literally access the energy of the flame in realms, in dimensions we weren't able to before, and also to direct the energy of the violet flame into realms and dimensions we weren't able to before. But in addition to that, the awakening experience, like any other attunement or initiation, will raise the individual's personal frequency, allowing more old stuff to fall away. It also enables you to create, to work with, to use a specific sacred space that you can bring into being, which, personally, speaking purely personally, I feel is the most, well, I know for myself, it's the most powerful form of protection that I have in my toolbox, and I've acquired quite a few along the way. And it's what I use. It's what I use for my own energetic protection, to create a sacred space if I'm doing any work. I use it several times daily, and I feel for myself that it was the sort of certainly the most used gift that came with the awakening, and therefore probably the one I value most. But we also become able to use some high frequency healing energies, which are extremely powerful. And we also become able to access a specific process, which is a form of higher clairvoyance, which again is really useful and powerful. And anyone who has received their own violet flame chakra awakening is able to pass it on to others. Again, this is one of Edwin's blessings. Everything he does, he makes it possible for it to be shared. And certainly the many students with whom I've shared it, I encourage them to, spread it further, as guided by Saint Germain in the beginning. He wanted as many people as possible to experience this, because anyone who's received their own awakening then carries within their energy field that frequency of the violet flame chakra, meaning, wherever they are, wherever they're going, whatever they're doing, they're taking that vibration with them and spreading it. Um, and then I briefly mentioned the fearless tools, which is more to do with violet flame, not violet flame chakra, but this is all the same energy. Edwin again brought through these. This was about 18 months ago, just over a year ago. Linear time is a little
Yeah, I know
confusing
the
today.
feeling.
But it was somewhere not too long ago.
Yeah.
And again, specific tool given to us by Saint Germain, because he was aware that literally the frequency of fear was and still is sadly very present within humanity. So he gave us some tools designed and intended specifically to work with the frequency of fear, to curtail it. There's sort of three processes which can be passed on separately or indeed together. And that's something. I mean, I have shared them. I have many others, I am sure. I shared them a year or so ago within the Illumination Group, and again have been prompted. This will happen. It's not quite ready yet, but I will be offering them again as kind of individual packages on a one-to-one basis. I have such a list of things that I am supposed to be doing and being prompted. I just need longer days and less sleep.
Right.
But that will come. And then, as I say, the Violet Flame Apothecary, this is the most recent workshop from Edwin, just about a month ago, so very, very new. Um, that is a day, or the way Edwin presented it, and I also very soon will be passing it on as a day's workshop. I mean, this is absolutely Edwin's. I mean, it's from Saint Germain, but it's Edwin's work, and what I will be offering is the 19th of April. Again, it's not out there yet. It's not on any website or anything. I think I did manage to get it onto Facebook, but if anyone's interested, I'm sure you'll add my email address, or if the website's there, they can find me. I'm happy to pass on the information, the details. As I say, that's working with the violet flame, not chakra, although they are, of course, all interconnected. And this most recent offering is some extremely useful tools. There's 6 or 7 extremely useful tools, but deliberately made really, really simple,
I love
so
that.
that
Me.
people who may not necessarily be familiar with spiritual practices, or have the time to spend a significant amount of time in order to enable a process, can call on these tools and make a change. Working with the energy of the violet flame. This is very much working with the energy of the violet flame. Um, yes, yes, and also, if I may squeeze one more thing in there, Caroline,
Eric,
um,
Diana, it's
back to the channeling of Saint Germain, which, as we have said, it takes place in the Illumination Group, but also I'm on again, the information's not out there yet, but it will be when I have time to put it out there. Returning to something I did several years ago, one-to-one channeling sessions just with a client, which I've been prompted to bring forward again. So that soon will become available. Probably nothing to do with the violet flame, though, so
sure.
much of what I do, it's there. Probably, or certainly some of those sessions will be Saint Germain coming forward, but not necessarily. I know there could be other ascended masters, there could be any sort of light being, and I'm also aware, and this is the last thing on my list, and this is not happening yet, but it's coming. Working with galactic beings, with cosmic beings, and their energy coming through, but that's not for a while yet.
Yeah. It's
So
funny you say that because when a few times you were speaking, I could really feel the want to like sense some light language coming. So I'm like, yeah, that would be the cosmic beings or the
yes,
cosmic
and also
us
yeah,
connecting. Yeah.
light language is bubbling around there, but yeah, that's yeah.
It's
which
another
is why
thing.
I need longer days and less sleep.
Oh, isn't it? I get you. And you know, when it's so interesting you're saying this because I remember receiving those fearless tools and thinking, oh, these are just so perfect. And I haven't made the connection like, yeah, I can be sharing these. I know for my journey, I've been really holding on to, let's say, that my beef with the mental health system. I did with that, with the book that I launched last year, and I hadn't realized how much I'd been carrying it. And this is the thing, when we work with these energies, we're cleaning and cleaning, and then we get to these layers, and then I'm like, oh, I feel like I've wanted to go over there, but actually I had this stuck, and it was so deep because it was challenging, but like a lot of us who see kind of different perspectives, even at the time I could feel this was like, somehow this is part of my karma. I felt it was one of those sliding door moments, like I know, it's like I remember this, it's like I co-created this experience, but it still had a lot of trauma connected. You know what I mean? I hadn't let go. And to me, trauma is just things we couldn't process at that time. I didn't let it go. So it's just really interesting you're saying about that. And as you were talking, I remember one of them was having a flower of life with the violet flame under our feet. Am I right? And the feeling of it coming up. And I know I've been in fear about speaking out my knowings, because what happened when I was sectioned, I was getting these downloads. It was just reams of, I was like, da, 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 and it was like all the questions I'd ever pondered were being answered. Da, 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 and I was like, yeah, this is amazing. But everyone around me is like, you're off your head, we don't want to know. And I spoke to my dad some time ago, and I was like, what do you remember? He was like, oh, it's like you were talking to five people and there was no one with you. And of course there were people, they were just not in the physical vessel. But I just had to lock it down and act normal again, and I've had to obviously the process. But this is the amazing thing with the violet flame, because literally while you were talking, I just saw that the flower of life, and I could feel the energy and literally soften him. And that is how quick it is. Like, if you're not sensitive to energy, then you may not notice. But it's like, I use the analogy, we're going from ice to water to fluid gas. It takes a bit to get ice to soften into the water, and then from water to gas. So, don't beat yourself up if you're not energy sensitive. But these tools are the softeners, aren't they? They just
Yeah.
soften and transmute that kind of any stuck energy, which has all been in my lower chakras. And obviously we talk and act, up here, and we don't necessarily notice what's going on down there, right? So that's the thing, it's a multi-pronged approach, isn't it? So
Yes, yes,
yeah,
yes,
I
yes.
love
And
it.
if I can just, two things there, Caroline. One is to absolutely honor and celebrate your journey that you've had, particularly with your own book, the one that you have created and birthed. And your whole journey, back then in the days when you were going through all those challenges, and how you've worked with that, and the perspective you have on it now, and the work that you're doing to make such information available, and to support others who may be going through something similar. I mean, I applaud that totally, and it's amazing work that you're doing. And I hope, I doubt, because I know where we all are on our journey, but I hope that you are giving yourself the recognition and the honor that you deserve for that work. And the other thing is to say, um, all the things I've voiced so far, I mean, they are amazing. They are wonderful. They are glorious, and I'm so privileged to work with all those tools. But I also want to make it clear that, I don't spend every day being in this glorious love and light. But, there are days when I'm on my knees, struggling, suffering, clearing my own stuff. It's not this. It's not fair to say. I mean, in one sense, it is a tough journey, but it's unfair to describe it as such, because the rewards and the gifts and the unexpected blessings that come,
Yes,
far outweigh the struggles that we choose to put ourselves through.
yes.
But I just don't want to appear like this, sorted being who just
The
ascended masters
floating
turn up
ascended one that's moving, yeah.
channel. It's like, no, no. You catch me on a good day. So
Yeah.
much of the time, no, I I've traveled a long way. I recognize that, and I look back and do sort of acknowledge, yeah, how far I've come and what I've achieved, and the inner battles that I have won, as it were, but I'm very aware that there's still more to go. And as we both know, the more we progress, the delightful issues that we're working with are the ones that are buried more deeply,
Yes. Oh,
harder, harder to access and
so
harder
right.
to
So right there.
base. And so yes, I
Oh,
mean, I don't want to depress everyone,
no,
but
no.
I just don't want to kind of say this, I'm human too.
Sure. And I really thank you for saying it, Diana, because I definitely, and I think it's a bit of a leftover from the that time. There's definitely a sense of like everyone else is okay and I'm the fuck up, you know. And like bit by bit, I'm like, hang on, it's actually because you all are mostly repressing your stuff. But like I see that we do, and I've put right about this in the book. There's life, and then suddenly you have your awakening, and it's like the plaster comes off, and then it's like, oh, here we go. And so there's a chapter, I think it's chapter 6, it's what happens during your awakening. And I just use the chakras to kind of because it's like, how do we even start quantifying? But just with our throat chakra, I mean, I work with clients and they're like, oh, I think I'm all right. And then they're, oh yeah, I can feel myself being strangled, or I'm seeing, you're going through the layers and layers and layers of the
Yeah.
soul self, really the Akashic records in situ of all the layers in just that chakra, and then it's like, okay, what about my third eye? Da, da, da. And so, I do sometimes trip up and go, oh, I'm just failing. It's like, no, it's just another layer peeling.
Yeah.
I woke up this morning and I was like, I don't want to do it. And I was like, okay, let's just sit with this inner child going, I don't want to be a grown up. I'm like, oh, oh, that's been a bit of a pee under my mattress. I hear you. And I just had to sit with it because there isn't a way over. You can't just bat it away and get on. In this work, we're becoming like more authentic, but that's like all the stuff is coming up rather than, yep, I'm fine. Do, 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 do. It's just you just start going, okay, and I do believe, which is, you were saying, you get given what you can handle, and the bigger, harder, challenging stuff is, we've tucked it deep away in the corner, and it's like bit by bit it gets louder, and then it's time, to shed that skin, shall we say. So thank you for saying it, because I do think it's so easy to see people, because we advertise, we people are offering, these healings and things like this, and it can easily people think, oh, you're perfect, then it's like, no, we just keep coming back. And there's it maybe a difference. I don't know about you, but because I had faith, I mean, I had my first kind of vision when I was about 7, so it was a really strong experience. I was in the playground and it was like time stopped still, everything just faded, and I was just like in this
Oh.
light, and I was like, oh, that's God. And I received, actually not so long ago, it was actually a lot of angels, not really God, because God is all, right, you could say, but it was a really profound moment. And so however dark it gets, it's like, all right, make a prayer, because and the chink and the light and all the stuff and the healing happens again, so it's yeah, it's what we're doing, isn't it? We're like
Yes, I mean the we are. I mean it is a wonderful system, I have to say, because the further we progress, the more tools we acquire, as in
yes,
sort of practical tools, but also experience in trusting the process and being able to sit
yeah,
with whatever's unfolding.
yeah.
Um, but I was going to say something there which has now completely gone out of my head. Um,
Mm.
yes. But I haven't reached the point I'm about to express yet. I haven't got there yet. Is that the trick is, when we are in those dark places, to remember that we have the tools. This is the time when we need them. This is the time
Yeah,
when,
yeah,
if only we could remember that we're able to do this, or we can call on that, or
yeah,
we can use that. But it's easy. Easy is the wrong word. When we are in that space, it can
yeah,
be really difficult
yeah,
to remember that we don't have to be there. There is a lifeline, and this is something I'm still working on. that, when we're there, is to remember, what we have, what we can do. But we're human, we're spiritual beings on a human journey, as everyone has said so many times, and it's absolutely true. And also to you mentioned earlier about, for someone not to beat themselves up if they don't think they can feel energy so well. It's again for us not to beat ourselves up for the few things that we can't yet do, and to try and focus. And we're not programmed as human beings, to look at what we're good at and to celebrate what we're good at. I feel it's changing now. I feel that the young people, the children now are. Well, I mean, it's the parents, the carers that have a different attitude. Collectively we're recognizing that we all benefit from valuing and honoring ourselves. But certainly, 100 years ago when I was a child, it's like, sort of don't go on about, don't brag, don't, say
Yeah.
how good you
Just
are.
keep being whipped, kind of whipped
Yeah,
along instead
yeah.
of a carrot. Yeah.
So it's we are collectively, we're not in the habit of recognizing our achievements and acknowledging often to ourselves is the hardest. But in any, in any environment, in any conversation or anything, how good are we collectively at receiving compliments? Getting better, maybe, but
Okay.
so often the response to a positive comment will be to dismiss it somehow.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I haven't done this. No, no, forget about what I've done, but I haven't
yeah,
done this. And
yeah,
I get you, Diana, because
yeah.
literally the last few months, even though I launched the book,
Mhm,
in my mind, what I've seen for years is an online program and a whole tiered, offering so that people can really dive deeper and and it's like until I've done all of that, then I'm not going to go out in the world. I'm not going to do this. And I've been carrying it, and it really came clear. I had a Akashic record reading with a beautiful lady, and she was like, Spirit is saying basically you need to take that off your shoulders, because I had the sight that I had when I was in the hospital. I was like, well, that's going on with them, and that's going on with them, and I'm like, what? Like, no, I in my head, no one else could see that, and obviously now I know there are healers and psychics all over the place, but I couldn't see it, and it really felt like it's my responsibility. So yeah, I haven't cared that I've written that book, because I'm like, yeah, but I need the next until I've done all of that, then I can stop. And one part is we don't always see who we are. We are what we are. So people say, oh, yeah, and you're like, well, yeah, I just did what the next thing was. So there can be a neutrality, I think, rather than needing the recognition. It's just like, well, yeah, because I'm doing my work. If you're on the path of service, or conscious kind of spiritual service, you get given the tasks, and like you said, you have a whole list, so you're like, well, I'm gonna keep going. And actually just to stop and really, yeah, there's a balance, isn't there? Acknowledging
mhm.
it, and trusting, and letting it all flow as it needs to. But oh, Diana, it's so lovely. Like you said, though, it's so lovely to sit in this energy. And I wanted to share this when you were talking about the Illumination Group. The word that was I was getting is satsang. It's
Yes.
sitting in satsang,
Mm.
and I know like Muji does that over in Portugal, doesn't he? And it's this kind of thing you kind of go to if you're in a temple, or you go over to India and sit in an ashram or something. But for me, that being in a spiritual group, I've missed it, and often I'll think, oh, I really want to go to church. And it's like, I don't really want to go and sit in a really old, cold building and listen to the very, like, laborious, kind of not really present message. I can feel the energy. Obviously, churches are sacred places, a place of intention, but it's not quite what I want, honestly. You know what I mean? But
Mm.
that for me is the draw. It's like, oh, I'm sat in reverence, and that
Yeah,
is something, that I mean, for me, it's nature, or in various
yes.
dance floor as well is often a place where I really feel that. But that's what it is. I just wanted to share that with you, because that's what it feels like, and it's
Yeah,
beautiful. And like you said, two is also satsang if you're in that coherence and that harmony. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
No, that's a lovely, lovely description, a lovely sort of expression of the energy of the experience of that group.
yeah.
Mm.
Oh, Diana, I feel like we could talk and talk and talk because it's our subject. I had a diagnosis the other year of autism, and I believe it's all part of the ascension. To be honest, it's old souls connecting to a lot more of their frequency, and the earth realm can be challenging. But one of the things that always pops in is the specialist subject that is kind of connected with some of the symptoms. I'm like, for me, it's definitely like ascended masters, spirits, angels, and all the stuff. And I've definitely done people's heads in. So it's so lovely to be sat and going, I'm allowed to talk about it and listen to your story and just soak it up. So thank you, Diana. It's like for me, it's like a dream coming true with this. So, and in fact, do you know what? I have a form for everyone to sign up because it collects all the information, right? It's a bit geeky, but it works. It helps me. And I'm sure I started writing it in an illumination group because it's one of those things that is like, if you do that, then there's nothing much stopping the next step and getting you know what I mean? And I remember thinking, right, just start it, just make a start. And, so this is the thing, from small seeds, things grow, don't they? So,
Oh, how fabulous. How that's
yeah.
so wonderful to hear. How
Yeah,
magical.
yeah.
Yes.
So it just shows you. So if you are watching this and you've got those little whispers, trust them because those are the things that grow and you don't always know what's going to happen or how it's going to take shape. Like I thought it was going to be mostly me chatting and that no, I wouldn't know enough people to come on here. Now I'm like, oh yeah, everyone I know now is pretty much in some way spiritually interesting. And, not to say if you're not consciously on the path, you haven't got a story for sure. But, I know a lot more people now. So thank you, Diana, for joining me. I want to ask before we round up, have you got something that you'd love to offer or impart, a word of wisdom or encouragement for our viewers before we say goodbye?
That's hard. I mean, you think, I've shared enough words today. You think there's
Yeah.
so, and at this time, it's like there's so many things that could be said, and it's what's the is it possible to say? Actually, something has just come in. I don't mean, well, in a way, it's come in, but this isn't sort of Saint Germain's sort of guidance here. Um, which in a way might sound odd because I'm directing people to go somewhere else, but which is fine because of course we're all doing the same. But the wonderful Pam Gregory, I don't know if you know her
Yep.
or some of your audience do, but astrologer, but also such an inspiration altogether. She has instigated a daily meditation. From 7 to 7:15 p.m. UK time, but people can join in through intention depending where they are in the world, and the whole meditation is, as it were, pure intention. There's nothing, there's no Zoom connection, there's nothing like that. It's just the intention that people have for that 15 minutes to sit and hold. A kind of like satsang, if you like, or even though it's people are connecting with those that they can't see, or as in physical people they can't see, just holding sort of the high frequency. And if, as she says, if nothing else comes to you, then just keep repeating the phrase, we are welcoming in an expanding consciousness of love. We are
Mm.
welcoming in an expanding consciousness of love. And that timing is difficult for me on a sort of as part of a daily routine, but I have connected with that meditation several times, and it's powerful. And I know thousands of people join every day. She had, I believe it's still on her website, and I can't remember the name. But if somebody Googles Pam Gregory's website,
Yeah.
I know it's not just Pam Gregory. She has information about the meditation on there, but it's described as a Sunday meditation because it used to be weekly on a Sunday.
Okay.
But then some months ago now, it was suggested or is evolved that
Yeah.
it's daily.
Daily.
So every day from UK time, 7 in the evening until 7:15, there is literally a worldwide connection of people just holding this
Oh,
high frequency space, and you can. it's, if you like, choose how you work with it. You can use it to send healing, you can use it to send out the frequency of peace. And as she says, if nothing else, this we are welcoming in and expanding consciousness of love.
Oh,
Um,
that's
so
perfect.
that's what came. Because of the many things that we can do or can keep in mind, or should I say keep in heart, at this time, I just feel that's something simple but powerful,
Mm.
that can be done. And on an individual basis, whether you have the time or inclination to join in such a meditation, just as far as we are all able, to consciously hold the light. And it may seem like, a tiny, tiny spark in the middle of a whole lot of darkness, but that spark makes a difference. And Saint Germain says this to us in the group, as you know, that we are all holding the light, whatever we're doing, whatever situation we're in, and maybe just to remember that we are holding the light and to consciously be aware of that. And also to know, and this is something else that he says frequently, um, that we do make a difference. We may think that we
Yeah.
are just one little being among I don't know how many billion, um, but we are part of the whole, and as such, we make a difference.
Yeah.
And if it's just for 2 seconds a day, you're conscious of holding the light, it's making a difference.
Mm. I love
You're
that.
making a difference.
Yeah. I definitely needed to hear that. Thank you. Because I have days where I think, oh, I want to do the worldwide, da, 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 and they like, it doesn't matter. We've all got our part to play. And if it's a day that you're healing and somebody else, that's also you're healing the dark here, and it's all part of the bigger picture and unfolding, isn't it, of these days? So oh, thank you, Diana. What an absolute pleasure to have you on. And if you've enjoyed hearing from Diana, please do check out the Illumination Group. It is, honest to goodness me, it's life changing. And we'll have the dates because your next workshop is it the 19th of April, something?
19th of April.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got it in my mind because I am there because these tools are just invaluable, and at some point I will pass them on. I've already just got this idea now because obviously I run well-being fairs, and I'm often thinking, oh, my small list of, oh, I could do this. Obsess about coaching because I absolutely love it in this particular way I use, which is very healing. But actually, I will do some violet flame healings with the people because that was
Absolutely.
the thing. So yes, if you want to join in, I'll put all the details down there. Do have a look because it's just wonderful. And you're on Facebook, aren't you, Diana? Are you okay?
I
People
am. I'm
following
not
you so
wildly active, but yeah,
they
yeah,
see, they can see your posts. Then is that all right?
yeah, 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 yeah. Yes,
Great.
yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you, Diana. It's been
Oh,
an
thank you,
absolute
thank you. It's
pleasure.
been an absolute joy and pleasure to talk about, what is one of my favorite subjects. So,
Sure, sure. Oh, and I'm so happy to have been able to do that, and that I heard the call and kept saying yes. So I'm so grateful that you've joined us. Do subscribe, do have a look at Diana's website, and we'll see you again next week for another episode of Ascension TV Online. Thanks so much for joining us. Bye for now.
yeah.